He's smart, stylish, and always one step ahead. A slick gambler living in the shadows of a smoky nightclub finds himself tangled in a deadly game of jealousy, betrayal, and murder. Packed with snappy dialogue, sharp suits, and that classic black and white mystery vibe, this crime tale doesn't just entertain, it grabs you and won't let go. So let's start at the beginning. Today on Classic Movie Review, we're taking on the very good and stylish film noir Johnny O'Clock 1947. This film is currently slotted at number 38 on my list of all film noir movies. This terrific film has a pitiful 6.8 score on IMDb.com. It has been slaughtered on Rotten Tomatoes as well, with a 33% rating on the tomato meter and only 39% audience approval. These ratings are a crime against the movie-going public. Dick Powell is tough and sophisticated. Lee J. Cobb is understated and practical. Ellen Drew is as beautiful as she is bad. Evelyn Keyes is solid, and Thomas Gomez is a really menacing bad guy. Eddie Muller of TCM's Noir Alley said the plot is not essential, but the enjoyment comes from the stylish landscape of this film noir. It's a good movie even though it is stylish. The plot's okay and the stylistic motifs are great. Cranky old New York Times film critic Bosley Carruthers said in a March 27, 1947 review, quote, "Another of those underworld smarties who's as hard and shiny as brass on the outside, but who muffle hunks of goodness within their little boy hearts in this unoriginal hero of Columbia's Johnny O'Clock. For he does the usual business of talking coldly and sarcastically to cops, treating the females disdainfully, and sparring shrewdly with his underworld pals. Obviously, he is not the villain in all the crisscross of murdering that transpires, but the slowness and general confusion of the plot for 2/3 of the film does not make for notable entertainment, and the shallowness of the mystery as to who's doing the killing relieves it of anything great. Watch this movie." Actors: Dick Powell played the hood with some good left inside, Johnny O'Clock. Powell was first covered in the good film noir Cry Danger 1951. We have covered him in Murder My Sweet 1944 and Pitfall 1948. He was also the director of the very good naval warfare film The Enemy Below 1957. Powell was a singer and a dancer who turned himself into a film noir actor. He is smooth and can pull off sophisticated as well as rugged. It's like when Pierce Brosnan took over the James Bond role. He was believable in a romantic scene as well as when he was throwing a punch. Evelyn Keyes played Nancy Hobson, the sister of the murdered Harriet, Nina Foch. This is the best role I've seen Keyes perform in. We've covered her in other good film noirs, The Prowler 1951 and 99 River Street 1953. Lee J. Cobb was the determined police inspector Koch. Cobb has been covered in two other film noirs, Thieves Highway 1949, where he was a really bad guy, and The Garment Jungle 1957, where he was a really bad guy. Cobb was very low-key in this role, which made for an outstanding performance. Nina Foch played victim Harriet Hobson. Foch was first covered in the film noir Illegal 1955. She played her role in this film adequately, but she may have been just a little too old to play a naive coat check girl. John Kellogg played the role of ex-con Charlie. He was first covered in the great war film 12 O'Clock High 1949. Kellogg has been a rat or a hard ass in everything I've seen him in, and this film is no different as he snarls and slinks in the background. Thomas Gomez played ruthless gangster Guido Marchetti. The more I see Gomez, the more I am impressed as he effortlessly goes from roles like Poncho in Ride the Pink Horse 1947 to gangsters in films like Today's or Key Largo 1948. We've covered him in other film noirs like The Woman on Pier 13 1949, where he was a stinking communist, and Las Vegas Showdown 1955, where he was just a general bad guy. Ellen Drew played Nellie Marchetti, the wife of Guido Marchetti, Thomas Gomez. Nellie drinks too much and is hopelessly in love with Johnny. Drew was born in Missouri in 1914. She was 15 when her parents divorced, and she went to work to help support her mother and brother. She worked various jobs until one of her store managers convinced her to enter a beauty contest. She won the pageant and decided to try her luck in Hollywood. She took a job at the famous Brown's Confectionery located on Hollywood Boulevard in her new city. Actor William Demarest of My Three Sons fame noticed her while she was serving ice cream. She continued to work at this job and others until Demarest got her a screen test. The year was 1936, and Drew was 21. She began with uncredited roles in 1936. Her first significant role came with Seeing You Center 1938. She changed her name and her hair a few times during this period. Drew became a celebrity with the release of If I Were King 1938. Other films include Dangerous to Know 1938 with Anna Mae Wong, Women Without Names 1940, Buck Benny Rides Again 1940, Christmas in July 1940, The Monster and the Girl 1941, Isle of the Dead 1945 with Boris Karloff, Today's Film Johnny O'Clock 1947, The Man from Colorado 1948, The Baron of Arizona 1950, which is better than you might expect. In the 1950s, Drew transitioned to a primary television-based career. She died in 2003. Story: Inspector Koch, Lee J. Cobb, stands on the street, chewing on a cigar as he checks the time on his watch against that of the street clock. A newspaper boy sells Koch a newspaper while he hawks the story that a big-time gambler was shot while resisting arrest. Koch wanders into a fancy hotel and waits for the clerk. He asks for Johnny O'Clock, Dick Powell. Koch explains to the clerk that the man in question goes by many other names. After he sees the cop's badge, the clerk gives the room number and says the man never gets up before 9 p.m. At 9 p.m., the alarm clock in Johnny's room sounds. Charlie, John Kellogg, Johnny's manservant / henchman, helps wake the sleeping man. Charlie is upset about a woman Johnny is ignoring. The same woman has sent a jeweled watch inscribed with "To my darling with unending love." Charlie shows Johnny the newspaper story about Detective Chuck Bladen, Jim Bannon, shooting the fleeing gambler. Johnny says he is a trigger-happy cop. Johnny comes down to the lobby dressed in a monkey suit, tuxedo. Harriet Hobson, Nina Foch, is waiting, and she is upset about the shooting and Bladen being a killer cop. Officer Koch begins talking to Johnny about Bladen. Harriet is sent to wait outside. Koch says Bladen is on his way out as a cop. He also says that Johnny and Bladen are in business together. Koch wants Johnny to provide information against Bladen. Harriet is Bladen's girlfriend, but he has recently slapped her and sent her away. But she's still in love with the cop. Johnny says the relationship is over and she should leave, but she can't because she loves him too much. "I love you so much, if I don't want a kiss of your face, I think I'm gonna die." In a rather large, elegant gambling hall, Johnny watches over everything like a pit boss's boss. Charlie tells Johnny that Bladen is waiting in the alley. Harriet is the coat check girl. Johnny pulls the hat on the roulette dealer and has him held in an office. Johnny even checks the casino's food quality on the way out to the alley. In the alley with the other rats is Cop Bladen. Johnny tells about his conversation with Inspector Koch. Bladen mentions that he is no longer interested in Harriet, but he won't let her go. Johnny tells him to let her go. Bladen says Guido, Thomas Gomez, is taking him in as a full partner. Johnny says that he and Guido are already partners, so they don't need another one. Bladen then tells Johnny that he is on his way out of the casino operation and threatens to kill him.
Know me? You get in my way, I'll kill you. You took the words right out of my mouth.
Back inside the office, Johnny pulls the coat off the roulette dealer and accuses him of stealing. But Johnny decides to give him a second chance. They don't sand his ass with a belt sander.
Go on back to work. No use firing you, just have to hire another dealer. Might be smarter than you are. So smart I couldn't catch him.
In saunters the lovely Nellie Marchetti's Ellen Drew. She is the wife of Johnny's partner Guido and is the one who sent the watch and who keeps calling him. Johnny tells her that he will return the watch. Then Guido and Bladen enter the room. Guido has been in Mexico and is looking to expand his gambling operation there. Guido asks his wife Nellie to leave the room. Guido shows the watch that Nellie gave him upon his return. It's the same one she gave Johnny, minus the inscription. Bladen doesn't want Johnny in the room when he makes his pitch to Guido. Johnny warns Guido about getting associated with Bladen before returning to the gambling floor. Nellie can't keep her eyes off Johnny. Johnny tries to return the watch to Nellie, but she refuses to accept it. He leaves the watch with Harriet to return to Nellie. Harriet can only think of Bladen, and against Johnny's advice, she refuses to leave the bad cop. Sometime later, two bums find a coat floating in the river. A beat cop stumbles upon the men and takes the coat. The next day, Inspector Koch takes the coat to a dry cleaner by using the laundry number tag found on the coat. The stain on the coat is blood.
Excuse me.
Yes?
You're the proprietor?
This coat.
You want it cleaned?
It was cleaned here. This is your serial number.
The cleaner says that the coat was brought in by Harriet and it had a police badge left in the pocket. Koch goes to Harriet's apartment. Getting no answer and smelling gas, he breaks into the apartment. Harriet is there, but it's too late for her. Another tenant from the building, Mabel Page, says that she saw Harriet come home last night with a man and both appeared to be drunk. The landlady, Virginia Farmer, informs the inspector that a man pays the rent. When she is shown a picture of Bladen, she says that's the man. Koch finds a key in the lock and thinks it may be foul play. When Johnny returns to his hotel room, Koch is beating up Charlie and is waiting in the room.
Look, friend, you can shove Charlie around, not me. I once got a ticket for passing a light. That's all that's on my record.
Johnny admits that he was the man who brought her home, but he is surprised that she committed suicide. Bladen is now missing, and Koch implies that Johnny may have dumped a murdered Bladen in the river. Later in the conversation, Johnny says that Harriet's only relative is a sister, Nancy Hobson, Evelyn Keyes, who is a traveling performer. Charlie gets snotty with Johnny about saying that Koch could knock Charlie around, but not him. Female hands are shown holding a telegram as a plane makes for the city. Nancy meets with Inspector Koch at Harriet's former apartment. In Harriet's purse is the watch that Nellie gave Johnny. The quote is not specific, and there is also a refusal note from Johnny intended for Nellie. Nancy thinks it came from Bladen, but Koch is not so sure. Koch asks about Johnny, and Nancy remembers her sister saying how good Johnny had been to her. Nancy decides to stay at her sister's apartment. Later, Johnny is in the counting room when he gets word that Nancy is outside and wants to see him. She's stylishly rocking a beret and seems to be hit with lightning bolts when she sees Johnny. Oh, he invites her inside the joint. Nancy blames herself for not taking care of her sister. Johnny stops the piano player by saying, "Hey, you with the hands, knock it off."
You can tell him to stop playing now. It's bad for my eyes.
Hey, you with the hands. Go home.
Nancy wants to find Bladen, but Johnny tells her to forget it. Nancy says she is leaving that night due to work. Guido is hanging around at his mansion-like apartment. Nellie is there, as are about 4 men, including Turk, Jeff Chandler. Nellie is interested in listening to the horse races on the radio. Johnny walks in and watches from the stairway before walking down. Nellie no longer cares about the horses when she sees Johnny. Guido is watching Nellie and how she acts around Johnny. Guido says that he turned down the deal with Bladen. Guido tells Johnny that he doesn't have to worry about him, at which point Nellie chokes on her drink before delivering the line, "I choked on a piece of scotch."
That's why I know I'll never have to worry about you. What's the matter with you?
I choked on a piece of scotch.
Guido takes his rage out on one of his men before following Nellie. He refuses to let her out of their relationship. Afterwards, Guido and a few of the men head out for the fights. He asks Johnny to stay and keep Nellie company. That's a bad plan. Johnny is worried about the conversation between Guido and Bladen, and also where he can find Bladen. Nellie and Johnny fight because she left Johnny for Guido. During their fight, Johnny discovers that Nellie never got the watch that he left for her. Later, he tries to find the watch. Nancy is leaving her sister's apartment and heading to the airport when Johnny comes in using the key he has. Nancy hides in the dark as Johnny begins searching for the watch. She tries to escape and he stops her by throwing a bottle at her, and then he grabs her.
You play rough.
I wasn't taking any chances.
After they talk, Nancy settles down. Johnny says he will get her to the airport on time. He tells Nancy that he feels bad because he introduced Harriet and Bladen. When he straightens up the apartment, he finds a Mexican silver peso, a coin which was minted from 1898 to 1909. Nancy and Johnny head down the stairs to his car. Watching from the landing above is Koch. Koch enters Harriet's apartment where he unloads his pockets of their contents and looks over all the clues he has. Koch uses a small tool to prove that the door can be locked from the outside while leaving the key in the lock. A nosy tenant comes down and bothers Koch as he is working. She finds an autopsy form on the table that says Harriet had poison in her system when she died.
It says here there was poison in her stomach, too. What does that mean?
It means you're a very nosy woman.
Koch makes a call and is about to have an unnamed person arrested when the news from the other end of the line sends him to a different location. At the airport, rain has caused the cancellation of all flights. Johnny and Nancy go to a small restaurant nearby to wait and eat. The waiter, John Burkes, brings them each a shot. He tells the pair that they will need the drinks if they are going to eat the food there.
Who ordered these?
Did you ever eat here? No.
You'll need them.
The couple get to know each other better, but Nancy knows she doesn't want a relationship. They go back to Johnny's apartment and Charlie is not there. Johnny tells her that Charlie is an ex-con fresh out of prison and is devoted to Johnny. Eventually, Johnny tries to kiss Nancy, but she refuses and wants to tell him her story. Then she decides to kiss him. Later, we see Johnny is dressed and heading out to the club for a couple of hours. He and Nancy hammer out the details of their planned relationship, and Johnny asks her to stick around.
Let's make the words mean what they say. If it's gonna be for laughs, okay. Only I want to be in on the joke right from the start.
He gets a room for Nancy in his hotel. Koch is outside the hotel and catches Johnny before he can leave. Koch tells Johnny that Bladen is dead and that his body was found in the river. Johnny goes to the police station with Koch. 3 cops have Charlie in an interrogation, but he is allowed to leave when they bring Johnny inside. Johnny is sure Charlie would not be a stool pigeon. Koch then has Guido brought into the room and says that both men had reasons to kill Bladen. Koch continues that the 3 most common motives for murder are revenge, profit, and jealousy. He says Guido had 2 of the motives and Johnny has 3. Koch says Johnny is the brains and Guido is the muscle. He says that their plan was to hire Bladen as a legal killer. He also says Bladen and Harriet would have been witnesses against the pair. Koch pulls out the watch and the note from Johnny. Guido sees the inscription on the back of the watch. He then acts like Johnny killed the 2 over jealousy and the fact that Bladen was trying to force him out. Guido is released. Johnny is flipping the Mexican peso coin. Koch is mad that Johnny won't turn on Guido. When Johnny is released, Charlie is waiting outside for him. Johnny starts to act like he has become suspicious of Charlie. Charlie goes with Johnny back to the hotel. Nancy comes in for a walk. For some reason, Johnny is sending Nancy away on a plane in an hour. Johnny and Nancy leave for the airport. Charlie begins making a call and Johnny busts in on him and asks for the car keys. Charlie's call is to Guido. Nellie is asleep on the bed. Guido has a big card game set for that night. He tells Nellie goodbye and then he starts choking her over who got the other watch. Guido knows it was Johnny, but Nellie says Johnny refused her advances. Guido also tells her that Johnny will be dead in a few minutes. He tells her to leave without taking anything she owns, and she begs to stay. Johnny puts Nancy out of the car at the airport and starts to leave, but she doesn't know why he's making her leave. Just then, a car comes by and fires at Johnny. He crashes into a wall, but is unhurt. Nancy runs to him and now understands why Johnny sent her away, and she says, "It is true love. True love. To blame." Charlie is relaxing in Johnny's room when the buzzer rings. He takes his gun to answer the door, and it's Nancy. She says Johnny is hurt and he wants Charlie to help him find a doctor. When Charlie opens the door, Johnny jumps him and beats the truth out of his disloyal pal. Charlie confesses that he was there when Bladen was killed, but not when Harriet was killed. Nancy and Johnny get a cab. Johnny is running from the trouble. Nancy gets sick, so they get out for some fresh air. Johnny tells Nancy that he thinks Guido killed Harriet. Johnny says he will take revenge on Guido when the time comes. Nancy gets upset at the news, but Johnny wants to go to the club, collect his share of the money. The pair then take the taxi to the club. Nancy waits in the taxi while Johnny goes inside. Koch shows up and enters the taxi. He questions Nancy, but she remains tight-lipped. The high-stakes poker game is going on in the back. The rest of the club is dark, and Nellie is there, serving Guido. When Johnny walks in, Nellie is shocked. Guido takes it very coolly. They head to the counting room, and Johnny opens the safe. Johnny takes out a bag of money as Guido and Nellie watch. Nellie is still obviously pining for Johnny. Guido pulls out a gun and is going to kill Johnny. Johnny says Guido is falling right into Koch's plan. Johnny also tells him about the peso he found in Harriet's apartment. Johnny pulls his gun and is shot by Guido, but he still manages to kill Guido. Nellie runs after Johnny. He coldly walks out on her. Koch and some more police find Guido's body, and Nellie tells him that Johnny tried to rob Guido and then murdered him in cold blood. Koch goes out the back looking for Johnny. The card-playing gamblers try to escape, and Nancy uses this to slip inside. She passes Nellie on the stairs while Nellie is heading down and Nancy is heading up. That's some foreshadowing. Nancy finds Johnny and he tries to reject her. Nancy pledges her love just before Koch finds a secret room where they are hiding. Johnny holds a gun on Koch and wants him to let him go. Johnny says he has been framed. Nancy gives Johnny some reverse logic.
If you want him alive, tell him to drop that gun.
No, I don't want him alive. I want him dead. I want to cry for him. I had enough tears. I want more.
Johnny surrenders the gun. Koch walks Johnny out with Nancy by his side. Conclusion. In his introduction for Noir Alley, Eddie Muller said Johnny O'Clock, 1947, is basically a rehash of Mr. Lucky, 1943, and Salty O'Rourke, 1944. I'll have to take his word at this point. The producer of this film, Edward G. Nellis, actually ran illegal gambling joints in Hollywood before moving to Las Vegas and going legit. Nellis was pals with George Raft, an actor that was known to have mafia ties, and Bugsy Siegel, who was fictionalized as Moe Green in The Godfather 1972. One future star, Jeff Chandler, made his speaking debut, not his acting debut, as one of the card-playing gamblers. This was Robert Rosen's first directing experience. He went on to direct and write the screenplay for The Strange Love of Martha Ivers 1946, directed Body and Soul 1947, produced, directed, and wrote the screenplay for All the King's Men 1949, produced, directed, and wrote the screenplay for Alexander the Great 1956, They Came to Cordura 1959, and produced, directed, and wrote the screenplay for The Hustler 1961. He also wrote the screenplay for today's film Johnny O'Clock 1947. Rosen was a communist and had to appear before the Un-American House Un-American Activities Committee in 1953. He named names and went back to work. Lee J. Cobb had to appear before the committee the same year. He also named names. In this case, he named Sheeman Ruskin, who played the dry cleaner in this movie. While this film was being shot, Evelyn Keyes eloped with John Huston for a Las Vegas wedding. Huston said in an open book 1980, by 4 o'clock in the morning, Evelyn and I were standing in front of a justice of the peace in Las Vegas. We were married with Paul Mance and a taxi driver as a witness. That's page 127. Paul Mance is a stunt pilot who was killed while filming The Flight of the Phoenix 1965. John Kellogg, who played Charlie, also eloped and married actress Lauren Stevens during the filming of this movie. Were they putting something in the water? There are a lot of scenes of actors smoking in this movie, and they especially posed Evelyn Keyes as a sexy smoker a lot. World famous short summary: don't sleep with your gangster boss's wife. Yes, Furio, don't sleep with your gangster boss's wife. Beware the Moors. All right, in a second, some boxes will pop up. One is another film noir review like this one that I recommend. The other is a playlist of similar film noir reviews.